Joining us to talk about that is the Executive Director of Global Engagement for Oakland University's International Education. Rosemary Max joins us now on the Oakland County Megacast. Rosemary, thank you for being with us today.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
How are you? How's your team been at Oakland?
We're good. We're hanging in there. It's been a lot over the past couple weeks and over the past couple months, but we're doing our best to serve our students and keep their morale up.
So previously, there were guidelines that were being put out by ICE that were by the U.S. government that would require students, international students, to be taking at least one in-person class, or they could potentially be facing deportation back to their home countries. That's since been rescinded. It's been blocked by the courts. But that was really causing a scare for international students, especially earlier on in this week as they face the potential of being sent back home if they're still in the country during a pandemic, or not being able to continue their education with people that they know and places that they know, and with and programs that they are familiar with and that are, they believe, successful enough to bring them potentially great careers going forward. How have they been faring through this really rough week?
So at the beginning, when we got this news, it came late. Given the start of the semester is not far off, it was a little bit of a shock. And so we were scrambling to find out how many students were at that point enrolled in 100% online and how we would work to get them an in-person or a hybrid course. And it also affects students outside of the country as to whether they can even get back to the US, whether they should come back, and what kind of status they would be in outside of the US if they couldn't get back. So it was really affecting students inside the US and students who went home for the summer, let's say, and were trying to come back. And so since the guidance was made essentially a 180-degree turn, there's been obviously a soothing effect, calming down effect. Students who are in country now know that they can take the courses that they need to complete their studies, to fulfill their major, and they don't have to start scrambling and looking for courses that they may not need, or just register for something that would cost them money and time that they may not have needed. And ultimately, they were most afraid of having to go home if they couldn't find those courses, and so all that has been remedied thanks to the lawsuit.
And we're really fortunate here in Michigan, especially at our universities here in this state, that we have such a diverse population of international students that really at all of our universities. In particular graduated from Michigan State University, and we have so many different cultures that are brought onto campus by bringing in these international students who come in from all over the world to study at our universities here in Michigan. Just how critical are international students to the university culture in all of our universities in the state of Michigan, particularly at Oakland University?
That's a great question. As you mentioned, the state of Michigan is really blessed with great universities and universities that attract a lot of international students. And, Oakland has a great group of international students, and we're just so happy to have them. And in general, I think these students, a lot of them are in STEM fields. So they are the people that go, and in business. And so they're the people that go on to create companies in our state. They complete their PhDs in engineering and math, and they go on and become faculty members at our universities. And so these are the people that teach our kids physics, math, chemistry, engineering, computer science. They are the graduate assistants that, help faculty currently at our universities. And on top of that, annually they bring about $1.2 billion to Michigan. So that's a lot of money, and it translates into jobs.
Rosemary Max with us. She is the Executive Director for Global Engagement for Oakland University's International Education. And on top of that, not only are our international students coming in for schooling, they're also staying over the summers and are working and are helping boost our economy and learning continuously over the summers in the state of Michigan. And on top of that, a lot of them maybe will, when they graduate, are thinking, I want to live in the state of Michigan and be here afterwards. So the continuing impact of having international students to the community is so far and vast beyond just having them learn on campus, because it helps not only diversify the cultures that we have on our college campuses, but also increase the diversity of our cultures and our learning abilities in the general community as well.
Yeah, and the whole idea behind the international student, or what used to be called the foreign student program many, many years ago, is that we bring people to the United States who learn about our culture, learn about our politics, learn about our way of being, our government, our democracy, and these are people who, even if they come to the United States for a very particular reason to get a degree and they're very focused, our culture gets under their skin in a very good way, and they are wonderful ambassadors for us, whether they stay here or whether they go home. So it's just so important from just a diplomatic standpoint for the United States as well.
So, Rosemary, we talked about the students that come here. What about the Oakland University students that travel abroad? How is the university preparing them, and is that program changing?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And Oakland sends a lot of students abroad in the summer, and all those programs were canceled this summer. So all those students that had taken time to apply and identify a program and get their families excited and save money to go, those programs were unable to run. Many of the programs that we would run in the fall term are also, not going. We have a handful of students, maybe 4 or 5, that are still hoping to go to countries depending on the situation here and the situation there. So it's greatly hampered study abroad. And just in the study abroad world in general, we have partners that also provide us programs, and those partners have been laying off staff, cutting back programs, really slimming down. And so everybody's in a little bit of a retrenchment or a retraction at this point. And we're hoping that by this time next year that we'll have better news and things will be back to normal. But it's been devastating for our kids who want to go abroad as well.
Rosemary, as the university prepares for the fall and as students prepare for returning to campus and returning to classes to online as well, in this current state that we're in, what are the challenges that are being faced by students that are coming in from international locations? Either they went back home during the pandemic and are trying to get back for school, or even those, like you mentioned, the study abroad programs are probably going to be offline. So in particular, the students that are coming back in the fall, what challenges are they facing in terms of getting housing in the local area, in terms of getting back in general to the Oakland University area in Rochester to be able to study in the fall?
Well, that's another great question. There are 2 big challenges maybe even 3 for students coming back from overseas for the fall. One is that there are still currently 4 travel bans out. So 1 for China, 1 for all EU citizens, 1 for Iran, and 1 for Brazil. So any citizen from any of those places cannot enter the United States right now. So many of our students who'd like to come back, unless those travel bans are removed, will not be able to come back this fall. The other piece is that U.S. embassies and consulates overseas are just now starting to kind of reopen and phase in visa issuance. So students who would need their actual visa to come in, which they all do, may get an appointment to get a visa, may not. So that's another big piece. The third piece is logistics. What planes are flying? How expensive are they? How can they get here? And then once they do, they'll find a different campus. My colleagues in other areas on campus have been preparing for what does class look like in this environment? How far do we have to be sitting apart? How often do things have to be cleaned? We'll all be wearing masks. So things will be much different on campus for all students, not just for international students.
Rosemary, is there anything else that's important for us to touch on that we haven't spoken on today that you'd like to let us know before we let you go today?
Just to reemphasize that this is such a great group of kids. They're very focused international students. They love our country. That's why they come here. That's why they pick us. And we are working hard, as all my colleagues are across the United States, to make sure that they still feel welcome here. And we realize the part that plays in making Michigan a welcoming environment for them. And we want them to continue to choose the United States and Michigan for decades to come.
Rosemary, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for the opportunity.
We appreciate it. Rosemary Max with us. She is the Executive Director of Global Engagement for Oakland University's International Education, with us on the Oakland County MegaCast.